Hi, my name's Nick, and welcome to the Painter's Mess. In today's video, I'm going to go over how I am painting my Blood Angels army. So come join me and let's make a mess. So I started with the Loyalist Champion console, and what I ended up doing was adding the Assault Backpack to the back and some of the Blood Angel iconography from the Grey Tide Studio Crimson Lords Kickstarter, and as well as one of their swords. So I replaced the downward hand with one of the upward hand swords. Kind of look, they're considered swords of pure edition, so that's really what it is. And all I did was prime it black. Now you can do that with a rattle can or an airbrush. I used an airbrush in this case just to get that really smooth black coat. And then I took my white ink, and you can use any kind of white ink to do this, and started to highlight and spray the model. Now I emphasized the white really on the armor and the top of the head and the backpack or the jetpack. And that's really just so when you put the red contrast over it, it really does make it super bright and vibrant. And you'll see that. Now I'm just cleaning out my airbrush, and I kept that in there just so people could see how to like quickly clean it out. And this probably took me 5 minutes to really do all that, but it's one of those squeegee bottles with water. You just fill it up and just continuously rinse it out into a cup or something like that to get rid of it. Now I did the Blood Angels Red in the Blood Angels Red contrast from GW in the airbrush, and I'm just spraying it right over that white, and it pops very well, and it makes it so bright, and it looks fantastic. And this is pretty much the way I have done the whole army so far. Now, the next, all I'm doing is blacking in all the pieces, or all the things that need to be blacked in. So specifically the tabard and the chest cloth, as well as the bolt gun, or the combi melta, and the joints where the black, where the piping sits. From there, I took dark silver from Pro Acryl and started filling in all the silver details. Now this is all the little chains that this model comes with, and the pipes on the jetpack, kind of in the vent area, as well as the vents on the backpack, or the backpack part of the jetpack, as well as like where the power thruster area would be of the jetpack as well. But it's pretty much all the metals from here on out, and it's just dark silver from Pro Acryl. Oh, and can't forget the molecular studs on the shoulder pads. Now I did end up doing the kind of the edge detail of the shoulder pad in the silver, but later on in the video I actually go back over with the gold, and I do the same for the legs, because after I get so far into the painting process, I realized that it doesn't have enough gold on it, so I went back and re-highlighted those with the gold to give it just more of a pop than the silver was. Now I also considered doing the blade in full silver, but because of the champion that I did, the chaplain that I did earlier with the blue power axe, I want to keep all the blades and axes of Pure Edition blue because it gives that additional pop to the red. So I'm gonna just continue with all of the power weapons blue, but I probably in hindsight would have just chosen to do them in silver and gone that route, but it's okay. So the next color that I'm putting on is the Death Metal by Army Painter, and it's very similar to my favorite bronze by Pro Acryl, but it's a little bit more dark gold than it is bronze. And the reason why is because I'm going to highlight it with the tainted gold, tarnished gold, tainted gold. I don't know. It's in the back of this video, the paints that I used. But anyway, I'm going to highlight it with that, and that's going to give it that really nice gold. And that gold particularly mimics decayed metal from scale 75, which is like this really nice dark gold. And I really like the color, and the Army Painter color really matched it. So I'm just sticking with that instead of ordering scale 75 paints. Now I went and did a base coat of warm brown or Rhinox hide for the leather bits and the pistol holster and all of that. And then I did the Pro Acryl Jade as the base for the Spear of Pure Edition and or what power weapon, whatever it is, and all of the gems. So you can see that I did the gems in the blue as well, and that really just pulls out, it really just pops comparative to the like red that's throughout the whole model. So it really just gives it a big different color, a different contrasting color. So from here, I am using Vallejo a Vallejo gloss varnish through my airbrush, and I do it through the airbrush just because it's very quick, but you could also just paint it on. And what this is going to do is protect all that paint that I just put down, all those base coats, so when I do my oil wash, none of that gets pulled up, as well as really enabling the oil wash with the mineral spirits to get into the recesses and move about the model without hard staining it, and it can also be washed off later. Now there are plenty of YouTubers out here who talk about oil paints and can explain it way better than I can, but basically it allows the capillary action of the mineral spirits to really get into all the recesses of the miniature. Now it took me a little bit to get the consistency that I was looking for, and all I did was just continuously add mineral spirits until I felt that I was happy with it. And I used these little metal cups, and what's really convenient about them is it's just enough paint to do a model or maybe multiple models, maybe a unit, but also once you are done with it, you can just wipe it out and throw away that paper towel. Now be careful because mineral spirits are flammable, so dispose of it properly, but you can literally just wipe that oil paint out with a paper towel from that metal little tin and use it again in another way or for another project. So you can continuously reuse those little metal paint tins over and over as you go through your army painting process. Now, as you can see, I doused this thing in the oil wash, and that's okay. It's just burnt or not a burnt umber. I'll have to look and see what color it is. Honestly, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's an umber color. and it's just basically a brown wash. And because I sprayed that gloss varnish, all of that oil wash gets into all of the tiny recesses and sits there and just really gives it a really good wash. Now you could do this with contrast paint, you could water it down, you could also just kind of do it with a very pointed brush. And I ended up actually doing that for the top of the jetpack because it didn't hold all of the oil wash that I wanted it to, so I actually needed to make it a little darker and a little later. So before I had sprayed a matte varnish over the model, I was able to put some contrast paint and get that in there as well, and it really made the difference. And you can kind of see where those two lines right at the top of the jetpack just didn't hold the oil paint as well, so I ended up coming back with contrast and taking these little makeup sponges that I bought off Amazon. They're like I don't know, $5 for 150 of them or something like that. I ordered 2 packs. You can just scrub away much of the oil wash that's on the model that's not in the recesses. Now you can also put a little bit of mineral spirits on them and really scrub more of it away. See, this is where I did the contrast paint to get it in there. But for the most part, you can just scrub away everything you need with the with those little makeup brushes. And now you can use makeup sponges. You can use I wouldn't recommend using paper towels, but like you probably could. You'd probably be better off with like a dish sponge, if anything. And yeah, you can just clean off some of the grime, the dirt and grime that you've added to the armor, not in the recesses, just so it ties everything together, but also you get to pull back some of the like the grittiness of it, and you can kind of pull back and see the results of the red that's beneath it. So definitely take a look at his feet and the like corners of the greaves, and that's where you can see where it pulled a little bit, but it actually looks good because of the grimdark aesthetic of being, you know, Horus Hersey. Now I'm using the AK Interactive Ultra Matte Varnish here through the airbrush, and basically what it does is just coats all of that, locks it all in, and then seals it all, and it just gives it this really nice matte look, and I like that so much better than the shiny glossy look. So this is with no highlights. This is just with the base coats and the varnish, and I think it looks fantastic. The red is super bright, and all I have to do now from here on out is just start doing the highlights. So I take Pro Acryl Silver, start going over the metal bits, and it's just one layer of highlights. It's not much more than that, just enough to highlight all the edges and the molecular studs and all that, and it pops and it looks fantastic. Now I think overall this model probably took me from start to finish, once it was built and primed, maybe 2 to 3 hours to paint the whole thing. Now that doesn't include the amount of time that I waited for the oil wash to completely dry, because I left that overnight. So realistically it was a 2-night process, but the model came out, it just looks amazing from, you know, that much effort. And it's really not a whole lot of effort other than make sure you have a really solid prime and zenithal highlight. Pick out the colors that you want to do kind of beforehand, so get like maybe do a practice model, and you can crank out really, you know, HQ models, or really like important models of your army relatively quickly. And when it comes to like doing the rest of the army, so doing a whole squad of maybe 20 Marines or 10 Marines, it's going to take obviously a little longer. There's just so many more Marines, but having that kind of assembly line concept can definitely help expedite your painting process. And as well as having like a solid method of how you want to paint each model. So writing down your paint schemes in your notebook is really important, because you're going to be able to go back and then quickly replicate everything that you've done previously. So always make sure you're writing down your paint schemes. And obviously not everybody records their videos, and the one thing about recording is that I can see exactly which paints I used in case I forgot something. But make sure you write down your paint schemes, because it'll help you in the long run, especially when it comes to finishing an army quickly. Now, this is the second model that I've painted fully for this army, but I have everything in line and the whole schematic of how I want to paint the rest of the army from here on out. And realistically, at this point, where I'm at is I've done the zenithal highlights and the red for the whole army. So I'm more than, a quarter of the way there. I just have to do the blacks, the silver, the blue, and the gold. And obviously like the wash that I need to do. So it'll be a little bit of a process, but I'm going to do all of the black all at once, all of the silver all at once, all of the base gold all at once, and then I'll coat everything in a varnish, do all the wash all at once, and then come back and then finish it off. And it will still take time. It's probably anywhere between 2,500 to 3,000 points left to finish painting. And if you're a Horus Hersey player, you kind of have an understanding of how long that actually takes. But it should be relatively quick, and it shouldn't take as long as I have been putting off on my Death Guard army, but it definitely will be a lot faster. Now, I did, and I didn't talk about it while I was doing it, but I did do the highlights for the leather bits. And all that was the same brown mixed with a like almost a yellow flesh or yellow ochre color, maybe a little bit brighter than ochre, but some kind of warm skin tone, and that really gave me the highlights I needed. Now for the cloth, I used 3 different colors, 4 if you want to include white, but black, dark neutral gray, and a bright neutral gray. And just a combination of layering, mixing them together, doing like a 50-50, doing another layer of that. And from this point, I could have left it, and it actually looks really good, but it's almost too stark, too contrasty. So I ended up actually doing a thin layer of the original or the neutral gray, and it really actually covers a lot of it up, unfortunately, and I might go back and fix that in the future just to pop that back out. But like, I really liked how it looked. It just looked a little too cartoony for me, but I think if I did a couple more layers of the mid-tone, it'll actually even out and give it a really good like pop of the black cloth and really still read as black.
So now I'm looking to highlight the red, and I use Squig Orange and Fire Dragon Bright here. The Squig Orange is just a little bit orange red, and it's actually kind of hard to see initially, but with the Fire Dragon Bright, it actually highlights very well on this the Blood Angels red contrast. And I could have used, Wild Rider red or any of the other reds, but I definitely wanted more orange for the highlights instead of just like red and pinks. And it does turn out very well. So like I said, it's not super impactful, but even the little bit of impact over layers and layers, it actually becomes very impactful, and it really does lend to the highlight of the model. Now, luckily for me, there aren't a whole lot of edges left on this model because much of it's either gold trim or silver trim, and black or whatever. But most of it's really doesn't need to be edge highlighted as much as some other GW models do. I'm using a very tiny brush to do this, and I've used this brush for years now. I do have probably better ones suited for doing this kind of edge highlighting, but I'm using one that I'm comfortable with and one that I've continuously used. And like how I see it is, once you get used to doing something with a particular tool, you don't really want to change. And I say that from another example. A buddy of mine asked if I wanted to go frisbee golfing over this past weekend or the weekend prior, and I went with, and I have two frisbees, and I've used those for years. I had three at one point, but I lost one. But I've been frisbee golfing, back in high school and college for years, and I took a big break, just life and not having anybody to go with. And a buddy of mine, we were talking and realized he went, but I had two, and I was with all these guys, and they asked me over and over, "Hey, do you want to try this disc?" And I was like, "No, I'm good. I have my two that I've used for years, and I'm comfortable using, and I know how they work, and I know how they glide and all of that." And we were like 5 under par by the end of the 18 holes. Now, for everybody else that has never played frisbee golf, it's basically like golf but with frisbees. But I say all of that because it's the tools that you use. So if you get comfortable using a tool, just continue to use it. Like, you don't need to buy the newest tool or the newest brush because you think it's going to make everything better. If you're comfortable and you get results, continue to use that brush or that tool. Now, I used the same two colors to do a couple of chips and scratches on the armor, and that's just to pull out some and give it a little bit of battle damage. But kind of back to the tool part is, like, if you don't need the newest brush, you don't need the newest anything, as long as it works and functions for you. So the next thing I did was I took some of that neutral gray, and I took an old brush that kind of frayed at the edges, and I kind of just dabbed it, and you can see where I dabbed it on my thumbnail and then my finger. And basically I'm just adding a couple little dark chips to the armor to create a little bit of contrast with some battle damage and stuff like that. And the last thing I did to finish this model off was I took him off the brass rod. I snipped it just enough so I could pin him down, drilled a hole with the it's called a wow stick. You can get them on Amazon. Super nice stocking stuffer at this time of year if that's what if you want something nice for yourself or a friend. It's super nice. They have a bunch of different drill bit sizes. It's electric. It makes life so easy. And all I did was put that brass rod in his foot, drilled through the base and put a little bit glue on the bottom so I could pull it down. And yeah, took my snips and snipped it right off. Now make sure you hold that rod because it will shoot off into space if you don't. And glued it on, and then threw a little bit of black on around the rim, and this model is good to go. Now those base, the base topper is a little warped. That was one that failed, so you can kind of see it in this. But it is a base topper. All it is glued. It's a resin print glued onto the base, and it gives the whole army has these toppers, and they're all painted the same, kind of like this marble effect. And that's really it. Let me know how you think I did. I think it looks amazing. I think it looks really good. Now, obviously, it's like superimposed, so you can see all of the bad little details of it, but you can also see all the really cool details of it. Now, from 3 feet away at the tabletop, it looks amazing. And yeah, let me know how I did. So I just put up all of the paints, and they're this like little slideshow kind of at the end on what I did with them, just so you have an idea of which paints I have and which paints I used. And yeah, let me know in the comments down below if you like this kind of content and you want to see more painting process. I have moved my camera around from this point, so hopefully my hand's not in the way the whole time. And thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching. From here on out, I'll catch you in the next video, and yeah, go make a mess.